Let's learn how to make a pre-game shotgun, weapons loadout selector, in Fortnite Creative. The first thing you gotta do is set up the player spawner devices based on how many players your island's gonna have. These devices should only be enabled during the pre-game and can be used as the starting point of your island. Now, to create the weapon wall, we're gonna set up this system. You add a list of weapons so players can see the loot they're picking. Once the player picks the loot they want, they'll step into this device to set their class at the start of the game. The device above handles Class 2, so the same weapons you dropped into the weapon list, you're gonna drop into this Class Designer device. I'll explain what this device does in a bit. It's super important. To make the weapon list, use the item placer. Drop a weapon and it'll automatically grab the weapon. Just remember, this device is only for showing players the weapons they're picking. And yeah, the same weapons you dropped here, you drop into the Class Designer too. Like I said, you're using this device to change the player's class. It needs to be active only during the pre-game, and it should change the player's class to Class 1. You can do this for as many classes as you want. I made 3. In the Class Designer, you can set the class identifier based on the first class you chose. Make sure to enable Keep Players' Items on Respawn. Do this for all the other classes too. Now let's talk about the Mutator Zone. This is where you'll teleport players to the game area when the match starts. So, when the game begins, the player will get teleported using this teleporter. But if you prefer, you can use a damage volume instead of the Mutator Zone. It should only be active during the game, and if you're using the Rift, set it to teleport the player when they enter the Mutator Zone. Next, add some player generators based on the number of players on your island. Now, place those devices in the game area. They should only be active during the game and can't be used as the island's starting point. When the game starts, the lobby devices will automatically deactivate. So if players get eliminated, they'll respawn in the air. That's why we need these devices in the game area. What happens when a player doesn't pick a class? If a player doesn't choose any class, they should get default loot. That's where we use the Mutator Zone. You need to place the Mutator Zone where players respawn, covering an area where you're sure they'll spawn. As soon as players enter the Mutator Zone, it'll send a signal to the item granter, which will give the no-class players their weapons. To identify the players without a class, set the Mutator Zone to Selected Class, No Class. Then, make it send a signal to the item granter to give the no-class players their gear. Drop the items you want the no-class players to get into this device and tweak some settings, like letting them keep everything in their inventory and granting all items. Now, when you start the game, you should automatically start with the no-class items. To test the system, you need to post a private version of your island. Go to Island Settings, choose Mode, go to Game Start, and set Auto Start to whatever time you like. Then go back to Overview, click Publish Island, and it'll generate a private code for your island. Copy that private code, head to the lobby, click Find, paste the code for your private island, and start the game. Now you just gotta wait a few seconds for the game to auto-start. You can also pick your loot for when the game begins. Everything should be working fine.